You are a masterful manifester, yet you're still waiting on your manifestations. Maybe you've learned about the law of attraction and being in a high frequency and having faith and hoping that your manifestation will appear one day. And yet you've been steadfast, you've persisted and endured the long wait for this manifestation to show up, and still nothing. Well, today we are talking about how to make it manifest. Your desires should be here. So, during this conversation, I'm going to help you to understand where you've gone wrong in your manifestation process and how to turn your desires into reality. This is a 2-day workshop. We'll spend about 60 to 90 minutes together. Why such a large gap from 60 to 90? Well, I want to leave room for questions. If you have purchased this workshop, you have VIP access, which means you are in the StreamYard studio with me. And so you have access to asking questions and having those questions answered on demand. Otherwise, you're watching this live on my YouTube channel. So I'll be happy to answer questions that are displayed from YouTube, but please understand that it is a first come, first serve. The ones who have purchased a ticket to reserve their seat inside of StreamYard Studio with me will have their questions answered first. Okay. But don't fret. Feel free to add any questions to the comments. I always answer the comments that comes out of any content that I produce. I think it's important. Community is the reason why I do this. All right, so let's jump right into it, shall we? I'm going to share screen and we're going to get started. So, if your manifestations are not showing up, I want you to understand that you're doing something wrong. And that's okay because when there's wrong, there's right. And this is another universal law of metaphysics, just like law of attraction, which you might have heard of already, just like the laws of compensation, mentalism, and cause and effect. There's so many laws of the universe that we might not know about nor understand, but nonetheless, it is the one operant power in our lives that's operating all the time, just like gravity. And what you might not understand is that when you have a desire, the entire universe conspires to help you to manifest it into your reality where you could experience it in its fullest form, meaning you could hear, see, smell, taste, and touch it. And so, if you're not able to do that yet, or if you've been waiting a very long time for a manifestation and you are realizing its absence, well, you're doing something wrong. And that's okay. Manifesting with intention isn't as simple as what goes up must come down, which again is another universal law that we have accepted and we operate and cooperate with, right? We cooperate with it. Well, we want to cooperate with the laws that allow manifestations to appear into our reality where we can experience it to its fullest form. So give me a moment here. I'm going to share a different screen. Let's go ahead and remove this one. Boop. I'm so happy to have you here with me, by the way. If you are watching this content and already this is resonating with you, please be sure to like this content, save it because you're going to come back to it. This is a 2-day workshop. We're spending 30 to 60 minutes here today just so that we can make sure we can get FAQs in and so that we have time to actually do the work. Why? Because we're in a workshop. So that means I'm going to be asking you to do some work for yourself so that we can begin to make this manifest. All right. So I'm pretty sure you can you can see my screen and I'm going to roll with it. I can see my screen, so I hope you can see it too. All right. So once again, welcome to the Make It Manifest workshop. This is a 2-day workshop, and day one, which is today, we'll be talking about the foundations and the preparation that needs to happen in order to experience your manifestation even faster. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about 1, what manifestation is not, 2, what manifestation is, 3, the real mechanics of manifestation, And then 4, we're going to prepare to do the nitty gritty, the actual work. And then tomorrow, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to speak about application and how to make it manifest. And during that time, we're going to speak about, or we're going to start to identity shift into the person who receives this manifestation. We're going to start to reprogram the subconscious mind, which we'll get into that later and what that means. And then we're also going to start to embody, all right, embody the elements of our manifestation. So I'm going to teach you my framework that has helped me to manifest in its fullest form. I want you to know that you are not the only one who struggles to receive their manifestation. But I do want to remind you that everyone knows how to manifest and manifest powerfully and masterfully. I mean, there's things that we manifest all the time. Like, I'm pretty sure you've had a couple of meals today, at least one, I hope. And if that's the case, I want you to know that that was a very simple manifestation that you've allowed for yourself. You had a thought about food, or maybe your body gave you a signal to let you know that you were hungry. You thought about what you were going to eat. You either prepared that meal yourself, or maybe you purchased it by ordering takeout or going to a restaurant, and you've satisfied your original desire, which was hunger, right? Which was to have something to eat. That is a manifestation in itself. In fact, you are a manifestation. You are a manifestation of your parents, whether they'll admit to that or not, right? You are a manifestation in this world. To some degree, your family, your friends, your peers, the customers that you serve, or the people that you serve, your community needs you. Okay. So you are a manifestation itself. Everyone is constantly manifesting all day long. And I say that so that you can have hope that even though there might be something missing as a part of intentional manifestation for something that you really desire to have in this moment, that there's nothing wrong with you. Okay. This is completely fixable and completely doable, whoever you are who's watching. So let's jump right into day one, what manifestation is not. And let's talk about this. Okay. So, what manifestation is not? Before you manifest anything, anything, you must understand the mechanics, you must remove the misconceptions, and prepare your mind, emotions, and environment for your manifestation. And y'all, all of these things need to happen before you receive your manifestation. Many times, we might manifest something very simple, like how I mentioned food earlier, which a lot of these things have been prepared already. I mean, there's not many mechanics that you need to understand around how to feed yourself or how to obtain food. There's not many misconceptions that you may have around that either. I mean, you're either going to prepare it yourself or you're going to have someone else prepare it for you. And I mean, there's not even much preparation for the mind. You know you're hungry and you think about what you're going to eat and you make a decision, right? For some of us, some emotions are tied into it because some of us might be indecisive around choosing food sometimes, but nonetheless, we don't have any qualms or are tied up around the fact that we get to eat and that we know that we have the opportunity to eat and it's coming very soon. And then finally, we already pretty much figured out the environment. I mean, we're either preparing a meal at home or at someone else's space, or a meal is being prepared for us somewhere else, right? Simple enough. But now we're going to get into a conversation around what manifestation is not. Because now that we understand these concepts, and I'm pretty sure, once again, if you've heard the word manifestation and you've been intentional about manifesting a desire, something that you've been intentionally thinking about, feeling about, that to some degree you do understand the manifestation process. Maybe not all of the mechanics, but don't worry, we're going to review that today. But I want to make sure that we're covering the most common problems that happen during intentional manifestation. And so, with that, I want you to say hello to my little friend. Okay. This is my friend, Manifesting Manny. And we're going to talk about Manifesting Manny in just a second. By the way, let's take a moment. I actually need for you to grab a notebook and a pen and paper. So if you don't have either of those things nearby, I need you to grab a pen and a paper because, again, this is a workshop. So we're actually going to do some work around this, right? And then you may want to grab some water. We'll definitely be here for this entire hour together. So I want to make sure that you stay hydrated, that you stay alert, and that you are completely here with me and present for this conversation. All right. And now that you have that, let's jump into this story with our friend, Manifesting Manny. Okay. So, Manifesting Manny, by the way, is a realistic human story about frustration, burnout, and finally understanding what manifestation really is. Okay. So Manny already is aware of the concept of manifestation. He's very intentional about manifesting health, manifesting more money, more love into his life, and pretty much Manny knows what he wants. Okay. Manny is 34. He's spiritual, optimistic, and he has watched more manifestation videos than he cares to admit. He's read some books, he journals, he visualizes, he does meditation, scripting, and even a whisper technique. He does it all. And for a while, this gives him hope. But then Manny realizing that nothing is actually changing. He's still at a job he hates, still living paycheck to paycheck, still watching other people magically manifest things while he forces a smile and tells himself, my turn is coming. But deep down, he's starting to wonder if manifestation just doesn't work for him. I mean, what's taking so long, right? And this is where the frustration hits. This is the point of realizing that nothing is actually changing for Manny. One night, he's sitting at a kitchen table, and with his manifestation journal, he's writing, I am wealthy, I am abundant, I am prosperous, I am healthy, I'm living my dream life. He writes for pages and pages, affirmations. He writes them 55 times. I mean, his hand is cramping up at this point. And finally, he sighs. Halfway through, he stops and states out loud, what's taking so long? This feels fake. It doesn't feel real to me. Do I even believe in this anymore? And for the first time, he feels the truth hit his chest. He's not manifesting because he's saying things that he wants to mean, but he simply doesn't feel. He's affirming things he doesn't believe and trying to jump from fear or lack thereof, then into fantasy through affirmation without changing one thing, which is his identity. So here's Manny's breaking point of manifestation failure, which you may resonate with. The next morning, he's watching someone on YouTube and TikTok saying, just visualize your dream for 10 seconds a day and it'll manifest, right? Just imagine it coming to you. Manny's literally ready to throw his phone at the wall. Bro, I've been manifesting for months. It's not here. This doesn't work. He feels silly. He feels misled. He feels like he's wasted his time. He's exhausted. He's confused and low key angry at the universe. And for the first time, he tells himself, this is not for me. It works for them, but this won't work for me. So I'm pretty sure that if you're still here with me watching this video, that you can relate. Perhaps you feel just like Manny, maybe all of the phases or maybe some of the phases. Maybe you've done the affirmations and the visualization. Maybe you've read some books and watched some videos and your manifestation still isn't here. Maybe you're still hopeful. Maybe you're still faithful. But sometimes it's like, man, I really need to get out of this situation. I need this new job. I need more money. I need a car. I want this healthy, loving, adoring relationship. I want to be married. I want kids. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes we might be hopeful and faithful and sometimes we might feel defeated, but there's still that one thing that's missing. Now, I was here as well. I've also hit this point until I heard something different for once. And it was that manifestation is not a hack. It's not this long list of affirmations and simply writing a statement 50 to 100 times over on a couple pages in your journal. In a very simple sentence in a podcast, I heard, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. Wow. That I had to sit with for a moment because I thought I was this person that was doing it right, manifesting, right? And so did Manny. But quite frankly, if your manifestation is not showing up, you're missing something. And again, it has nothing to do with you. You are a masterful manifester. That's not changing. That'll always be as long as you exist, as long as you're breathing, and as long as you have a cognitively functioning, you are able to manifest your wildest dreams and desires. But if it's not showing up for you, is because you're missing something. So there's a gap. And people believe that using manifestation techniques will manifest what they want. They believe it will fill this gap. And that's simply not the case. So let's talk about this process of manifesting, right? So we learn that we have a desire through awareness. We see something, we hear something, we feel something. We are aware that we like it. We are aware that we love it. We're aware that we want it. Okay. And maybe, just maybe, you've done a little bit of research about manifestation at this point. Maybe you're like me and read The Secret many years ago. I mean, it was big all over the Oprah show. She put The Secret and Rhonda Burns on the map. Okay. And so that led me into a deep understanding about law of attraction, all of these laws of the universe that I never even knew about because, we didn't talk about in physics in school, but this is a metaphysical principle. These are principles that exist the same way gravity does, right? So I gained a new understanding about law of attraction. So did my friend Manny, and so did many of the clients that I work with. Okay. And maybe that's you too. So you have a pretty good understanding of this concept of manifestation. And you also have a good handle on some techniques. Maybe it is visualization and meditation. Maybe it is affirmations, right? But these things alone does not equal your manifestation. These things alone do not equal your manifestation, especially when you're jumping all the way from being in total lack or total fear, or even being in a state of yearning for something, and then jumping to the end. You having this manifestation in its fullest form overnight. It doesn't work like that, my darlings. And that's okay because there's so many things that we get to do while our manifestation works its way to us too. Because just as badly as we want our manifestation, guess what? Our manifestation wants us just as badly. That's sweet to know. And so I remind you again, you don't manifest what you want alone. You manifest who you are. So, what manifestation is not? Manifestation is not wishing that you had a thing or that you were a thing or that you were doing something in particular. It's not bypassing any laws of physics and by metaphysics by any mean. And it's certainly not avoiding reality and ignoring things like it's not there, especially when you're realizing that it's there and very big. It's a very big circumstance that you wish you weren't in. Manifestation is not a delusion, okay? It's not think it and then it comes. It goes beyond just understanding the fundamentals and the concepts of manifesting. And it's certainly not magic. Okay. This is not a mystical principle, y'all. We are manifesting every single day, if not within minutes at a time. And once again, I remind you that you yourself are a manifestation. Okay. But intentional manifestation of something that you want to be, do, or have requires a measurable shift in your identity and your actions. And so I'm going to give you a quick story. So back when I learned the concept of law of attraction, I was super hyped and excited. I was like, what? Hold on. You mean to tell me that I can call in my wildest dreams, my greatest desires, just by naming and claiming the thing? Knowing that I want it, writing it down, living and breathing it out, I can do that. And again, I first learned about law of attraction through The Secret. I read the book, I bought the DVD. I mean, I played that DVD 100 times until it scratched. Okay. It was one of those situations. I even did the assignment that was a part of the book, which was to write a check out to yourself from the Universal Bank, unlimited. Okay. I did one for myself. I did one for my mom. And at this point, I was much younger at this point. I mean, this was at least a decade ago, y'all. Okay. And I did one for my mom as well. We were both in a money pit and we wanted so badly, so desperately to manifest prosperity. So we wrote these checks out for ourselves. And I can't find mine, but I have my mom's here and we did it at the same time. And what is so uncanny, which this, by the way, y'all, I wasn't even planning to bring this in to the workshop up until yesterday. And yesterday, when I asked my mom to borrow her check, which she had taped on her wall for, y'all, this is 15 years ago. For 15 years ago, she still has it taped to the wall 15 years ago. She hasn't cashed it in yet. When I looked at the date, it's 12/3/10. Today is 12/4/2025. I mean, the universe is just so amazing. The fact that I'm talking about manifestations 15 years later, how to manifest when 15 years ago I was just learning this and making all of the mistakes so that I could come to this conversation prepared to tell you how to avoid the mistakes that I made so that you can go straight to a quantum leap into your manifestation is absolutely mind blowing to me. I mean, just yesterday, I decided to bring this into today's conversation. That's a year ago, right? That's 15 years ago as of yesterday's date. How crazy. I love it. Okay. So to Glenda Hewitt, she wrote herself $38,000 that she has yet to cash in. And simply put, y'all, my mom and I both had the same problem. We had this great burning desire for more, for prosperity and abundance. However, we both constantly and consistently observed the lack thereof, the lack of money, the lack of financial freedom and vitality, the overdrawn bank accounts, or even if it was sitting at $0, I mean, the $0 inside of our wallets. I even realized that I would utter the same words that I grew up hearing around my household, which was statements like, when it rains, it pours. The less you have, the less you always have. I can't afford it. We don't have enough money. Oh my gosh, that's just another thing that I have to pay for that I can't afford. I mean, y'all, wealthy people don't speak about how much money they don't have. If anything, they're very cognizant of how much money there is circulating in the world for them to earn. There is no possible way that we can both live in a state of lack and abundance at the same time, or of brokenness and prosperity at the same time. I mean, I used to use the phrase "I'm broke" like a badge of honor. I mean, it was just the simplest way of communicating. Even if my friends invited me out to venture out with them a night on the town in the city, and if I didn't have the money to do it, I would use statements like, "I'm broke," which honestly, y'all, this cuts off all possibilities of the universe doing its work, which is to bring the manifestation to us in its fullest form. The only thing that we need to do is to line up with the manifestation. I was out of line with my check, which at this point from 15 years ago isn't even considered a lot of money at this point. I mean, let me not say that, because then there's also the law of relativity, and everything's relative, right? So when you're down bad and you're down and out, you don't have $5 to spare to yourself. $5 is a lot of money, right? Whereas to someone who's financially free, wouldn't say wouldn't think the same way, or they wouldn't exist in that mind state, right? So, excuse me for dismissing the law of relativity. But for me, the when I look at that check in my world, in my universe, I'm like, man, I'm at a point where I'm working towards really living in the state where it's easy to make $1 million, and that wealth has a need for speed. Shout out to Myron Golden for hooking me up with that one. Okay. So I say all this to say that it is very plausible that you also believe that you cannot achieve your desire. And if that's the case, then that's actually the reason why it's not here yet. Okay. If you believe that you cannot achieve your own desire, your own manifestation, if you are saying and feeling things that's the opposite of the frequency of having, being, and doing that thing, there's no way that you can experience it, because you can't live on both planes at the same time. Okay, hold on, y'all. We're going to pause there. So I need you to write down a desire that you have that you'd like to see manifest. All right, y'all. So go ahead and write down that manifestation that's missing. And we're going to find out what is your hurdle, what is your challenge, what is holding you back from achieving this manifestation. And I'm going to be completely transparent. Someone is trying to enter the room right now. So I'm going to send them the link real quick so that we can keep it pushing. But I also need you to pay attention to that desire, right? What might be blocking you, my friends, from achieving that desire? Do you believe that you're not worthy enough? Do you believe that it's not possible for you to achieve this desire, for it to come to you? Is it because you don't know how to get there that's holding you back? What is it? All right. So, what's really cool, y'all, is that once I figured this out for myself, like I had all of these big questions, right? So, just like Manny and many of the clients that I work with right now, I became super frustrated and I was pretty much gonna give up on this whole process of manifestation. But the thing is, like, once you're in this space, you know too much already. Like, once you've heard the concept of manifestation, once you've heard the concept of law of attraction or any one of these other metaphysical principles, then you know too much. So you can't even go back to what and who you used to be anyway. It's almost like we're just in this space of limbo, right? And so it's like, well, you still don't like the job that you're at. Welcome, Phyllis. Please, by all means, leave comments if you have questions. And then later on, we'll bring you to the stage. If you have questions, we could talk about it too. But we're right in the point of story time. So there was a point where I realized that there was no going back. Like I learned this amazing concept about manifestation, and I wanted that. I wanted out of the very laborious job that I had that was paying me great money, but I was tired all the time. So tired that even when I did take a vacation from work, it didn't feel like a vacation. Oh, because I was so tired on vacation that when I came back from vacation, I feel like I needed vacation from the vacation. And typically I would go right back to work, right? Because you only get a allotted amount of time off anyway through PTO. So I was working really hard. I was out of shape. I was really tired. And there were other areas of my life too that I was also unhappy with. So when I learned about this concept of intentional manifestation, there was no going back because I was already trying to escape that thing. But here's the thing, even needing to escape from something is not the mindset nor the frequency that we want to live in. We don't want to live in a state of escapism because by law, if we're going to attract something, it needs to match our energy. So if our energy is to escape a thing, the universe by law has to give us something that we feel like we need to escape from. Isn't that a doozy? So it's really important to take a moment to acknowledge with this one desire. So we might have multiple desires and many things that we want to manifest, but for the purpose of this conversation and in this workshop, we're going to focus on just one for now. Okay, just one for now. With that manifestation, what is holding you back from achieving it? Most of the time, you know the answer. There's sometimes where we really don't know, right? Like what we've talked about earlier, between myself, I was doing the same thing that my friend Manny was doing and that many of my clients do. I was doing the visualization, the meditations, the affirmations, being hopeful, being steadfast in my faith, and still, nonetheless, my most dominant vibration was still lack. My focus was on having enough money that I didn't have to work jobs that I didn't enjoy. I didn't want to work jobs anymore that was making me so tired, allowing me to be so out of shape because I didn't have energy to go to the gym or to work out. After work, all I wanted to do was go home. It already took 9 hours out of my day, really 11, because you have to count the commute to and fro work as well. And then you spend 8 hours sleeping. There's literally 5 hours left in the day. Then you got to eat, you got to shower. There's no time, right? Even believing that was all the dominant vibration of lack. There is no possible way that what I wanted to manifest can come. And just like I shared with y'all earlier, when I read The Secret and I watched the DVD back to back and printed out these checks as a part of the assignment from The Secret, and it says from the Universal Bank that's unlimited to write the amount that you want, whether it's $1 million, $1 billion. On my mom's is $38,000. That writing this check felt great in the moment and felt really hopeful and maybe even, yeah, possible, but not with the dominant vibration every other day, noticing that my bank account wasn't anything near that number, or for even worse, it was in a negative, and that I didn't even have money in my wallet. How does that make you feel to acknowledge when you don't have what you want, when you are not the person who you'd rather be? For me, I'd had rather been in shape, right? Fitness, physical fitness. I wasn't there. So, and I was acknowledging that. Didn't like the way that I looked in the mirror, didn't like the clothes that I'm wearing or how they fit, right? And constantly, and I see myself in the mirror every day, constantly acknowledging that I'm not where I wanted to be physically, and then not being able to do anything about it. Which one is the dominant vibration? We're always going to receive what's in our dominant vibration. It is up to us to jump into the frequency of that we want. So if we want more money, we got to get on money's frequency. If we want better health, we have to get on better health's frequency. If we want better relationships, may they be platonic or romantic, we have to get into the frequency of it before it shows up in its most tangible form. So it's very interesting. Again, I shared it is 15 years to date that me and my mom wrote on this Secrets Unlimited check to cash in. And when I asked my mom to borrow this for this conversation, a lot of feelings came up for her because she's like, well, that never happened for me. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with her and talk to her about why it hasn't happened, because we both had the same limited beliefs. We both walked around the house talking about how broke we were, how we couldn't afford things. When it rains, it pours. The less you have, the less you always have. This is not prosperous statements. How can prosperity come when we're talking about prosperity so poorly? Poorly. See that? Everything aligns. It's still harmony, even when it's dissatisfying. You're still in harmony, even when you're receiving things or experiencing things that you don't prefer. We're only aligning with frequencies of things. So it doesn't matter whether we see it as bad or good, whether it's something we prefer or don't prefer. Whatever is showing up is simply an indication of our energy. And now that we know that, again, I remind us all that there's nothing wrong with us. If you're not receiving your manifestations, or if you're not receiving them in a timely manner, if they're taking way too long, like you manifested this thing years ago and it still didn't show up, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because we're missing a step in the process. Okay. Typically, that step is lining up with the frequency of that which we're asking for. Now, we get to talk about what manifestation actually takes. Okay. What does it take to manifest? Okay. We're going to get to what manifestation is. But first, what does it take? Now that we know what manifestation is not, which is not wishing, it's not bypassing and ignoring what's what currently is, or avoiding and escaping our reality. It's not any of those things, and it's not mystical, right? It's a very real thing. Now we get to discuss what it takes to manifest our simplest and our wildest desires. So, this is where we get ready to manifest. So, check this, right? We talked about the mechanics of manifestation. So first we need to understand the science, right? It's like when we take our car to the shop, or if we've taken our car to the shop, or if you ever had to get anything fixed before, we go to a professional, and professionals have went through the science behind the thing before they can actually fix it, right? So here's the science and spirit behind manifesting. Okay. So we know that manifestation takes thought, right? We think of a thing, we decide that we want it, we decide that we want to be it, we decide that we want to have it. But manifestation also takes emotion and feeling. Emotions create energetic momentum. Now, what's awesome is that most of the time, once we realize that we have a desire, that initial emotion is more than enough to carry us through towards our desire, towards the manifestation. But sometimes we get knocked off our high horse, right? We get on our high horse and we're like, yeah, that seems great. That's something that I really want. And then something comes up that shows us that we don't have that thing, or it's not here yet, right? And so we have to intentionally put ourselves back into the mind state and the feeling state of our manifestation, because feelings create energetic momentum. Momentum meaning how quickly the universe can get our manifestation to us as long as we're doing our part. Okay. This also takes an activation of the senses. So I was fortunate enough to facilitate a session this morning with the Woo community. It's called the Wake Up Everybody community. I would love to invite you for it into it. I'll actually put the link down in the description so that we all have it and we can join the Woo community, because I mean, there's just amazing conversations that happen there. And I had the amazing opportunity to facilitate this morning. And we talked about two parts of the mind. We talked about the conscious mind, we talked about the unconscious mind. And the conscious mind is everything that happens while we're awake, in which we get to experience our five senses: see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Okay. We also get to visualize, we get to imagine our wildest dreams in this state. Okay. But as a part of that, notice that I mentioned that with our conscious mind is also how we experience our senses. We want to activate our senses as a part of keeping us in the emotional state and frequency of our manifestation. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about how we can do that later. Next, we have what's called a self concept and identity shift. So, this one is really important. And what's cool is we're going to talk more about that as well. But this is probably the largest misconception or the biggest piece that's missing when it comes to manifestation. So you might have done the visualization work, you might have done the affirmations, you might have journaled 100 times the same phrase or different phrases, or wrote out exactly what you want. However, self concept and identity shift means that now that you have identified a new desire for yourself, this requires you to change. Every time you have a new desire, that new desire actually requires you to be different than who you are today. So, whatever version of yourself is not receiving the manifestations you've been asking for, you need to drop it like a bad habit. And what's cool about this workshop is that I'm going to give you the tools and how to do that. So you'll experience that within this 2-day workshop. But I need you to understand that we need to assume a new identity and shift all of the concepts that we believe about ourselves so that we match the frequency of our manifestation. This goes right back to what I just explained to you about being prosperous. Now, a wealthy person or prosperous person would not utter the phrases that I've repeated to you that were the dominant feelings and the dominant phrases that I would utter. So it makes perfect sense of why it's taken years for the manifestations that I've asked for to actually come and materialize into my reality. And then guess what? Even when they started to appear, it was very challenging to hold on to them. They wouldn't stay, they wouldn't last. I also brought this up in this session that I facilitated earlier because this happens a lot with lottery winners. People all over this country win the lotto, and I mean millions, mega millions of dollars. And statistics shows that those people will lose that money within 2 years. Can you imagine having 8 figures in your bank account? You get an 8-figure check and you lose it in just 2 years. 2 years, y'all. Just 2 years. All because not because you are spending the money, not because they're spending the money. It's actually deeper than that. It's as deep as having not assumed a new identity, not being a different person, not being a new version of self that knows how to handle and manage money. This old version has to go, and we need to assume a new identity. So, we're going to talk about exactly how to do that within this workshop, and I'm going to provide you with tools for that. So, next is the quantum principles. Okay. So, we're collapsing possibilities into observation. So, this is a part of a visualization process as well. Quantum leaping is what is called in the metaphysical principles or the metaphysical world. But we need to actually be the person that has the manifestation now, not when we get it. And so this is the principle of faith, right? It's not seeing to believe the thing, it's believing to see the thing, right? So as a part of the quantum principle, not only does our identity need to change, but so does the belief systems that we have. Those need to collapse, and we need to build new principles, new possibilities into observing our manifestation making its way to us. So another really cool story that I have that I want to put into perspective around the quantum principle. I remember observing or at least becoming aware that there was a such thing as first class when you fly on a plane, when you travel. And if you any of you have ever been on a plane before and you mostly sit in economy, or if you sat in economy, you know that there's a first class or a business class, and you have to pass this section first before you get to your seat in economy. Okay. First class boards first. Not only that, they get service first. So they get their food, they get wine, they get blankets, they get headphones, they have spacious room where they could just lay out, right, on the plane. All the while we get cramped up in the economy seat, hopefully not in the middle seat. I don't know about y'all, but I don't like the middle seat. Okay, give me the window, give me the aisle, but not the middle. Okay. And even so, even with the window in the aisle, right, the chairs are super close, it gets cramped. We have to wait for the plane to take off, and then maybe 45 minutes into the flight, then we get service. And you have to pay for everything else for the most part, unless you have obviously some other arrangements is in terms of like flyer miles. Like I used to own the Amex Delta card, right? So there were certain privileges that you would get as a part of being with this arrangement. Okay. But I always would look at first class like, wow, that looks really nice. I wonder what it'd be like to experience that. Aha. This is the point of awareness. This is the point of realizing that you want to experience something. This is the point of me realizing that I wanted to have something that I currently did not have, that I was not currently experiencing. And then when I actually looked at the prices of first class and business class, I said, whoa, right? This was at a time where, once again, I was already teetering between the prosperous lifestyle that I wanted, but mostly observing the lack thereof, the lack of prosperity. Seeing a large number when I was looking at what it would be to fly first class scared me because I knew I didn't currently have that money. I wasn't even thinking about, well, one day I will, right? That wasn't the mindset, because the initial belief that you have around something happens the moment that you become aware of the thing. So, my first time looking at first class seats was the initial point of awareness. And when I saw how much it was, my first and dominant thought, not just thought, my belief was that it was expensive, especially compared to economy. And so I said, well, I know that I don't have the money to pay that right now. And I just clicked off of the page and that was it. But that didn't stop me from flying generally. I still flew economy. But every time I got on a plane, and every time we get on planes, we have to pass business class and first class first. And each time that I would, I'd still have the desire to experience that. Thankfully, I didn't look at it in the moment and say, well, I can never have that, or this is impossible. Now, when we use phrases in terms like that, you can even, you know how that feels when it's like you can never accomplish a thing, or when something's too late, or when you can't get there, when you can't have the thing, right? Now, that immediately eliminates all possibilities of the universe getting anything to us, right? And here's the key, y'all. I didn't recognize this until after the experience, but thankfully, because that wasn't my mind state per se, I had the opportunity to fly first class, not because I saved up my own money and paid for it, but because I had a friend who was a flight attendant. And he invited me to Puerto Rico, a group of us, and there were two first class seats open on this flight for us to get to Puerto Rico. And he could have taken one of those seats, or another person in the group could have taken one of those seats. But guess who he offered it to? One of the people who initially had the desire, me. And I said, oh, yeah, give me that seat, please and thank you. And I got to sit with another person that was in our group. So they sat next to me. And I finally got to experience all the wondrous things in first class on American Airlines. Okay, I had the spaciousness, we had full reclining seats, we got champagne upon boarding, we have big old Sherpa blankets. Sherpa blankets? Like what? So comfortable, so warm. We got the free headphones. We were pressing buttons that we didn't even know what they meant or what it was doing. Right? We got to experience all these amazing things. And what I realized after, right? What I realized after this experience, y'all, is that I did not have to pay for this experience out of my own pocket because I did not adopt the belief or the concept that I can't experience this anytime soon because I don't have the money to pay for it. I just realized that, okay, this is out of my budget right now. It's expensive and I'm still going to go to where I want to go. But instead, I'm just going to buy the economy seat. The universe decided to upgrade me because there was an opportunity to. Guess what? When you have a manifestation and a desire, it does not always mean that you need to do all of the work. In fact, most of the time, we only have to do about 10% of the work, if not less. A part of that is allowing for the possibility that the universe is going to get our desire to us without us having to work so hard for it. It doesn't take hard work. The universe literally takes on 90% of the work. Okay? We don't have to work hard for our manifestations. If anything, the hard work is in the beginning. It's in the beginning of understanding that we need to assume a new identity and a new version of ourselves that allows for the possibilities for anything to happen without us having to control every nuance of that circumstance. How wonderful is that? Guess what? When it comes to the 5 open-ended questions that I like to answer as a part of a desire or a new manifestation, the who, what, where, when, why, and the how, 6 questions of a circumstance. Out of the 6, only 2 of those we have worked for, all of us. The only 2 is to know what we want and why we want it. What we want and why we want it. The why is always the same, by the way. Like it's good to have a specific answer for this because again, being in a mental and emotional state helps to bring our manifestation to us faster. However, the why is always the same. We only want things because we believe that we'll feel better in having it. We believe we'll feel better in having better health, better partner, better opportunities. It's the same. Just want to feel good. As a human, that is what we're always seeking. That's always been since we were kids, since we were babies. Okay. It's always been that way. And that's fair. Like out of 6 components of the work, we only have 2, and they're super easy. We just need to know what we want and why we want it. The universe, which is a part of the mechanical operation of bringing manifestations into our reality, figures out all of the rest. It figures out who is going to help bring in that manifestation, when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. How wonderful is that? I did not know when the very first time that I looked at a first class seat and saw how much it was, my next thought wasn't, oh, someone is going to help me get this for free, or that I'm going to be upgraded into this seat one day. Now it is. Now I know that that's a possibility. My mindset, my thought process does go there sometimes. I mean, it happens all the time actually. Sometimes you're just chilling, you got your economy seat, and you ain't even worried about first class. You ain't think about nothing. And then all of a sudden they call your name to the desk and they ask you if you want to be upgraded. That happens to people all the time, right? So people who are, and it happens to very specific people though. People who are in a relaxed, neutral, positive, or high vibing state and a frequency to which they believe at least they have equal or good opportunities that can happen for them too without them having to control so much of it. So, quantum leap. I have not saved money for a first class seat yet. Okay. And I didn't need to. I quantum leapt into my desire just by relaxing, right? I let it go just by relaxing and allowing. We need to relax, we need to allow. We need to let go, we need to allow. We want to stay open to the possibilities that can happen for us. And then finally, this last bullet point here is faith, belief, and assumption. Faith, believing to see, not seeing to believe. It's important to remain steadfast in the faith that once we have a desire, it already exists. We can't have a desire without it existing, by the way. I learned that as well as a part of quantum physics. It's not possible. It's not possible to desire something that is not possible to bring into reality. As soon as you want it, it exists. So your desire is an indication that you can have it. So now you want to remain steadfast in your faith that you are going to see it as long as you believe that you can achieve it. So belief is the next one. Now, beliefs are important because we can set up a new set of beliefs for ourselves. However, which belief is dominant? Because I believed when I was writing my check that I can have that amount of money, but my dominant beliefs, which was of lack or brokenness and whatever other phrases that I was using, won. Your dominant belief will always win. So it's really important for, again, for the desire, that one desire that you wrote down tonight, to start to acknowledge where you might have lack, fear, worry, or doubt that you cannot achieve this manifestation. Which one is it? Identify it, call it out. Don't let it sit there somewhere buried beneath the surface in the subconscious mind. This part of the mind is deep. That's why it's called the subconscious. You have to dig this out. You need to shovel through the current beliefs that you have that is blocking your manifestation. If you do not have what you want and it's taking a long time to come, you have a blockage, which is a belief that you are not worthy of this, you are not enough for this, you cannot achieve this for some reason, whether someone told you that you can't or someone believed that they couldn't, so you thought that you couldn't. Whether you have a doubt, worry, fear, or lack, it needs to be brought to the surface. It cannot remain in the subconscious mind. We have to dig it out so that we can replace it with a new belief and make that dominant. And then finally, assumption. So there's a law of assumption in metaphysics. This is another principle. Law of assumption is another principle. You need to assume a new identity. You cannot remain the same person and experience in its fullest form and in its longevity. So a long-term form. Remember what I told y'all about the lottery winners? 80% or more will lose several millions of dollars that they win because they have not assumed a new version of themselves that can manage money, or that believes that they're worthy of it, or believes that they can keep it. So we have to assume a new version of ourselves. Now finally, we could talk about what manifestation is. Manifestation is co-creation with God, source, universe, consciousness, Marcus, I don't care what you call in what you believe, okay, is the operant, which is the operant source of power, why we're here in the world, how we're able to manifest anything, how we're even a manifestation in our realities. Okay. This is a co creation process. So, what happens when we have a desire, just like I've already explained, but I'm going to re emphasize, once you line up with your desire, the universe's job, its sole responsibility is to continue to circulate energy. Energy must flow, it cannot stay stagnant, it must move. And so, anytime we have desires, and we are calling it manifestation, we are now co-creating with the universe, and the universe is doing those four things that I mentioned, figuring out the who, the how, the where, and the when. You can receive your manifestation in its fullest form. So it's literally moving places, things, people, environments, all of this, so that you can experience this. And I'm sure that you can think about a time in which this has happened. Okay. So we are co-creating with energy all the time, with consciousness all the time. Okay. Manifestation is the science of focus, relentless focus, unshakable belief, and an undeniable frequency. Okay. Focus is so important. Y'all, we cannot we cannot slip and allow previous beliefs or previous versions of ourselves to continue to exist and expect that we can align with the manifestation we're calling in. So, in the beginning of this process for me, I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been to my self dialogue. I didn't learn that as a part of law of attraction initially when I started to even learn about the term of intentional manifestation. Okay. We absolutely need to listen to ourselves. In the conscious realm, so in our waking world, we spend a lot of time listening to other people. We have two eyes that's outside of ourselves, so we can see outside of ourselves. Like all of our conscious, our senses is on the external body. But how are you paying attention to your internal body? When you hear yourself talking to another person, or even what you're saying to yourself silently in your mind, is important. And every time, even by accident, I've realized that I would say this out loud, or even just with myself. Like the other day, I dropped something out of the shower while I was in the shower, and I said, "Of course." And then I realized, I was like, "Wait, why did I say of course?" So I just want to let you know that the more that you practice this, you will start to realize where you're blocking yourself out loud. Even your internal dialogue will scream at you. And thank God, I'm so grateful that that's the case, because how would you know otherwise? We are constantly, every day, we're waking up and operating as our previous selves, as our previous ego. And if that's the case, then we're not assuming the new version of ourselves. So we're obviously not lining up with what we're calling in. And so I thought to myself, I said, why did I say of course? That must mean that I'm expecting things that I don't prefer to happen. If something that I prefer just happened, and my response was of course, that's a belief that I need to look at. And so how are you listening to yourself? I need you to focus on this new version of yourself that you're going to assume, not just the manifestation. Your manifestation, once you have the desire, y'all, that's it. Like I said, the universe starts immediately, right away. the universe starts to work on the desire. We don't have to sit and continue to write down these affirmations like my manifestation's coming, my manifestation's coming, my manifestation's coming. That's not going to work. We Especially without assuming the new version of ourselves. We have to assume the new version of ourselves. You have to focus on who you are currently and if that aligns with who you are becoming. And as soon as you realize that there might be a dominant belief that does not align with what you want to be, do, or have, great. That's an awesome thing. Now we get to eliminate it and replace it. Okay. It takes unshakable faith and belief. Once you have your new belief, now we have to integrate it into this new version of ourselves, right? So we can't have a new belief today and then tomorrow we go back to having our old beliefs, right? So we already know with habits need to be disrupted. It's not just that I'm going to stop today and then tomorrow you wake up brand new. Habits have to be disrupted. We need to break down old habits. We need to remove phrases, people, things, environments, all of that to what we can do and can control. That absolutely needs to happen. Okay. Because the new belief needs to become dominant, and that takes time, that takes practice. So, this version of yourself you're becoming, you need to believe that you can become her, him, or them. And then frequency. I can't talk about this enough. I find that with working with my clients, frequency is a newer concept for people to actually act on. So, not just hearing it, you have to act on it. So, that means when you realize that you're in a state of lack, when you're in a state of doubt, worry, fear, or believing that good things can't happen to you or that only bad things exist right now, that you're not in the right frequency. If you prefer something else, that is the opposite. So you have to get to the other side. Okay. And then finally, what manifestation is. Manifestation is the energetic and behavioral alignment principle. So the behavioral part I underlined here, behavioral is equivalent to the action, right? So manifestations take three components for us to attract it. We need to think it, we need to feel it, and then we need to act on it. And so we want to be able to take inspired action as soon as we realize we have a new desire. And then we want to behave as this new identity that we're assuming by actually taking actions that that new version of us would do. So we're not waiting for the thing to come and then doing it, right? We're doing it now. So any steps that we can take to move toward our manifestation, the work that we get to do, we should start to do now, whatever that is. We'll talk more about that in our assignment that's coming up very shortly when we prepare to do the work. But very briefly, we're going to go over the real mechanics of manifestation. I might be re-emphasizing some things, but that's okay. I want you to know that it really takes repetition. That's the key here. Repetition, repetition, repetition. We don't need to learn anything new, even if you're hearing things for the first time tonight. When we have this conversation again tomorrow and thereafter, when you come back and watch this again, this is all that you need to know and to focus on for right now in terms of manifesting faster, okay? Or at all. So, the real mechanics of manifestation, once again, thoughts, feelings, and behavior, your action is how we manifest. But what attracts the manifestation to us so that we can experience it in our reality is the assumption of a new identity. You have to change the version of yourself that matches the vibration, the frequency of your desire. Okay. Then you can experience it in your reality. So, we talked a little bit about the conscious mind, right? So, our five senses live in the conscious mind. It's our waking world, right? It's everything while we're awake. And the things that we're experiencing while we're awake, when we realize that we want something, we want to be something, we want to have something, we are impressing our mind with that thing. Okay, we have like this micro obsession with it. It's like, I really want this thing. And then what happens is that we go into an unconscious state at least once a day. Majority of us do. We go to sleep. And while we sleep, all of the things that we impressed on our mind goes into the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind's soul's responsibility is to express our beliefs and desires back to us in our reality. The subconscious mind's responsibility is to express our true beliefs, our dominant beliefs, our dominant beliefs through reality. So it's interesting. I also used to utter this phrase that now I have a full understanding of, where, again, something would happen and I would say, "Oh, of course that would happen." Or I'd say, "Oh man, I knew that would happen." And I'm speaking about something in a negative sense. And it's like, of course. Yeah, I knew it would happen because I was expecting it. That was the expectation. If I said that about something that I don't prefer, then that was already the expectation. Now we need to reverse that, right? Because now when I realize something that's happening that I don't prefer and that I don't like, I immediately focus on what I do prefer. I'm not saying of course anymore. That's not my expectation, is that this is showing up and that I'm accepting it. I don't accept it. I want something different and I need to focus on that and focus on it intently enough and believe enough that I can have it so that it comes into my reality. And then finally, again, identity shift, identity shift, identity shifts. Allow manifestations to appear in our reality. Identity shifts. Allow manifestations to appear in our reality and stay long term. And stay long term. We have to shift from the current version of ourselves in order for manifestations to come and stay with us for as long as we'd like them to. Now, we're going to prepare to do the work. So I asked you all to grab a notebook, or you could grab your journal, and we have a brief assignment here. Okay? We're going to prepare to do the work. So, before your manifestations can appear in your reality, you must prepare for them by assuming a new identity. So we have to prepare for our manifestations. So I asked you earlier to write down a manifestation that's currently at the forefront of your mind. So we're going to choose one of the many, and then I'm going to give you 4 steps tonight to work towards this manifestation. So with that manifestation that you wrote down tonight, and Phyllis, if you want to, or if you're able to, you can drop this in the chat. I don't think anyone else is in the room. I think everyone else is watching via YouTube. Feel free, anyone, anywhere in the comment box, you can also share, okay? When we say things out loud, when we write them down, it also helps for us to live in the vibration, not to make them real, for us to live in the vibration of it. Because now we're talking about it, we're thinking about it. So now we're gaining momentum. So we're taking one manifestation that we want, that's at the forefront of our mind, and writing it down right now. What do you actually want? Remember, that's one of our jobs, right? One of the 2 jobs we have is to know what we want. And then I want you to write down why you want it. Why do you want this particular desire? And I'm going to give you a few moments here to actually do this. 1, because this is a workshop, so we're doing this in real time. And 2, because I want you to be as specific as possible. When we are specific, it once again builds up the momentum within us so that we fully remember why we're asking for this thing. We fully realize what we want and why we want it. Why do you want this particular desire? So, I'm going to use one of my examples for myself. And so for example, for one of mine is a home. I want a house. Okay. Let's just say you want a house too. That'd be cool. Phyllis, I see you. Purchase land. Be free on paying someone else's mortgage. Okay. Let's go. Ashe, ashe. And so it is, Phyllis. Okay. This is not, there's no absence here. This desire is already here. Now we're just lining up with the ability for you to live it in its fullest form. So now, after we've decided what we want and why we want it, then we're going to write down the identity behind this thing. What is the identity? Who is the person that is assuming this new reality? What needs to change in this version of yourself so that you could assume this new reality? So, for instance, some of the examples for me in owning a home, right? And owning my own space, really. It's really about my own space. Like I'd like a house, but also I'm open universe, whatever you got for me, because I'm pretty sure there's many things that I'd like and prefer, even some things I'm not even aware of yet, right? So I'd like my own privacy. I'd like to decorate my own way. I'd like to host company whenever I'd want to, right? I'd like to make a wise investment. I'd like to have something where I know for sure my family always has a place to stay, right? And yeah, right? And hmm, what else? I mean, I'm running several businesses. I'd love more space to be able to not have to pay or lease a studio or to pay rent anywhere. If I could use one of my rooms instead to run one of my businesses, at least my content creation, that'll be really helpful and, in fact, lucrative, right? So, these are some of the reasons why I would love my own space, my own home. But then I have to think about what's the identity behind it? Because owning a home ain't no joke. Okay, it's a larger it could be a large responsibility. That's one perspective. Now that doesn't make me feel fear. I'm just acknowledging that. Like I know that if I own my own home, especially a house, there's responsibilities that come with that, right? If there's if there's a lawn, if there's a mortgage, if there's property taxes, all kinds of things can come up with this, right? And even after moving in, long after moving in, things come up and we have to be able to take care of that, right? And even as I think about the process of that, what version of myself needs to come now that will let the universe know that I'm already in the energy of preparing for this manifestation? Could I speak to a real estate agent or a broker? Could I can I scope out the neighborhood that I want to live in? I mean, I don't want to just buy a cheap home or something I could afford, especially in a neighborhood that I don't want to live in, right? If I plan to have kids, are there good schools around? Are there parks and recreation centers, right? Can I start to look at neighborhoods or states and different spaces that I'm willing to live? Absolutely. This is something that a person who is actively looking to buy a home would do. And it's something that I could do right now. So why not do it now to Start to live in the momentum and the emotions and the feeling and the experience. Start to gain some knowledge. Can I talk to another homeowner and get some advice? Absolutely. These are all things that I would do now to begin to shift into that new identity of a homeowner. So I'm not going to wait to own a home to claim being a homeowner. I'm going to claim being a homeowner right now by doing small actions that's possible, that's not going to cost me anything, and that's going to allow me to live in the vibration and the frequency of someone who is actively ready to purchase. Okay? So, if you're purchasing a home or you're purchasing a car, what kind of car do you want to have? What color is it? Can you actually go to a dealership and test drive the car? Absolutely, you can. These are all things that you could do now, and you could do it for free. And it's going to put you into the vibration and the frequency of having that manifestation in the fullest form. There's no use of sitting at home like, man, this thing isn't here yet. Man, I don't have the money to do this thing yet. Man, the economy's really bad. Man, this is not the time to buy a house. It don't matter. That doesn't stop us from actually doing parts of what needs to get done anyway for the day of when things are looking up and the universe gives us the go sign. So we want to begin to assume that new identity now. What's the identity of the version of yourself that you need to shift into? So take a moment and write down one or two things of the version of the person who is a homeowner, who is a landowner, who is a car owner, who is a parent, who is a spouse. What do you need to assume as a new version of yourself now? What actions can you take? That's step one. Step two, environment and sensory priming. This is really important because this doesn't only put us in the mental and the uh mental and emotional space of where we need to be, but it also requires actual action from us. Okay. And when we take action steps on our own behalf towards our desire, this is an indication to the universe that we are ready to receive. Because if we have any beliefs or any inaction that is dominant, that is our dominant frequency, that is going to block your manifestation from coming or delaying it. So, environment and sensory priming would be decluttering your physical space. And this is something I've been actively doing because I do anticipate moving very soon. So I know I'm not taking most of this stuff with me. So I've been getting rid of a bunch of stuff. Okay. This is not just spring cleaning, it's not just fall and winter cleaning. No, I am actively preparing to move. Okay. Setting the frequency of your environment. These are things that you can do now. You don't have to wait on. So if I was to purchase a home, I'm thinking about what are some things that I would do inside of that home that I can actually do right now. So one of the things that I think about often is I think about what I want my bathroom to look like what I want my shower to look like, and all of the things that I'm going to put inside of the bathroom. And one of the things that I want to have in my bathroom is eucalyptus. I love eucalyptus. I love the way that it smells. I love the way that it makes me feel. I love how it opens up my nasal passages. I love the benefits of eucalyptus. So I do plan to have real eucalyptus inside of my bathroom. So one of the frequencies that I set right now is that, I mean, y'all can't see it, but I have a bunch of plastic eucalyptus plants sitting on my wall as a reminder that this is the frequency that I want to be in. And it's very helpful for when I do go into those visualization and meditative states. It's a reminder for me of what I plan to do when I'm in this space. And it also helps to set the frequency now. So I'm not acknowledging the absence. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to have that fresh eucalyptus in my bathroom. That's where my mindset goes. It doesn't go, oh, I don't have my own space yet. So we want to set the frequency of our environment now. So, what can you do? One thing, one simple thing, one cost effective thing, low cost to no cost, that you can do to set the frequency of your environment now. And finally, for step two, is to achieve some sort of symbolic anchor. Here's another thing that I do. Now, I don't have real eucalyptus in my room. I told you I have a bunch of plastic here, and I'm perfectly satisfied with that, by the way. Don't laugh at me about my plastic eucalyptus, okay? But I am so set on eucalyptus. I'm so set on it that one of the symbolic anchors that I do have and I purchase regularly is a eucalyptus and spearmint scented candle. So obviously, the plastic eucalyptus is not giving me any aroma right now, right? I could go inside of my imagination and imagine it, but the candle does it justice, and it smells delicious. is good, and I got one of the ones that doesn't give off all that smog, so it's the healthier, the healthier natural candle. It smells great. Okay, so we want to find some symbolic anchors that's representative of our manifestation. So maybe you even create this. So I can only imagine, like for you, Phyllis, I know that you shared about purchasing land, but I can imagine that you will receive some sort of note or certificate that validates you as the landowner. You can find a certificate template, print it out, and sign your name on it. Frame it, hang it up, put it somewhere where you can see it. Okay, we need symbolic anchors that will allow us to live in the vibration, that will be a constant reminder of not just the manifestation, but living from the end, living in the version of ourselves that actually already is experiencing this, because manifestation already exists. So there's already a version of ourselves that's experiencing this. That's also a part of quantum leaping, but we'll save that conversation for another day. Next is step three. Step three, y'all, is nervous system preparation. And this is important because, again, as we go through this current version of ourselves and we're acknowledging any lack, doubts, worry, fear, we need to make sure that when we fall out of balance, when we fall out of alignment, or as we're finding dominant beliefs that no longer serves us, that we're letting our nervous system know that it's okay. We are responsible for regulating our nervous system and finding homeostasis. That's a neutral point in between feeling good and not feeling good. We need to be in the middle, okay, most of the time. And so a part of regulating the nervous system and a part of preparing our nervous system for the things that will come up as a part of the process of getting to the manifestation, because it's not always a straight shot, right? I actually was just listening to one of my favorite content creators talk about purchasing a home just a year ago, and that even after putting down a down payment on the house, and knowing that they were going to receive their acceptance letter the next day, that actually the next day they received an email that says that someone else got accepted for the house because they put down this cash deposit and all of these things. Now, he did acknowledge that he was very upset and confused about how that could happen, but he didn't stay in that vibration for very long. That was his initial response, because that is very upsetting. Can you imagine, is that you're ready to move in the next day and then you get a letter that you cannot? So he had his emotions, but they didn't last very long, because he had already assumed or was becoming the new version of himself that was a homeowner, and a homeowner to this specific home that he owned. Fast forward, they actually made a mistake. Okay, the broker, I believe, that he was working with was new, and so or maybe the person that did the admin that did the paperwork, it was something of that nature where this person was new, so they made a mistake. And guess what? It was actually his home the whole time. But can you imagine, even if that was the case and finding that out still later, but spending 24 hours or staying up late at night wallowing about this thing that didn't even exist because he was always the homeowner. You're always the owner of your manifestation, of your own desire. Of your own desire, you are always the owner. So we don't have to stay in this wallowing state or this low vibrational state and frequency that would actually delay the process of manifestation even further if we would just learn how to regulate our nervous system. So safety and receiving is important, right? You need to feel safe as you're walking into this, right? So when I think about purchasing a home, one way that I think of doing this safely is by going with someone who I trust or who has owned a home before. So the person that comes to mind immediately is my brother. So that's what I've written down before as a part of home ownership or even buying a car. I'm taking my brother with me because I feel very safe with him. And also safety and receiving too. So here's another thing, and this is another story that has come up is um someone that I known who needed a cash deposit on this house that they fell in love with. They needed a $25,000 cash deposit. They didn't have 25. And the person that they ended up telling about the situation offered them $25,000. And they were so reluctant to accept it. No, that's too much money. I don't want to take that money from you. I don't know how or when I can pay you back. How or when. Not our jobs to decide. And this person is fine offering it. It's like they're just like, what do you mean? It's not a big deal. Just take the 25, get your house before someone else gets it. That's your house. And so finally they accepted it. But you know how many people have problems receiving? Like that's an actual thing. So is that one of your problems? If it is, I need you to write that down as one of your old beliefs that needs to be eliminated. We need to eradicate beliefs that no longer serve us and assume a new belief and a new identity. So allow your nervous system to be safe. Sometimes accepting gifts will set off your nervous system if that's what you've been practicing over and over again. So that's something that will take practice and we need to work on, and we can work on now before any hurdles come up in the process of receiving a manifestation. We need to release resistance. So remember, we let it go, we let it flow, right? Anytime resistance comes up, we want to practice letting go the emotions. Resistance is emotions. That's the feelings that come up that says, we don't like this. We don't like this at all. A deep breath, y'all. We have to let those things go. We cannot hold on to resistance and be in the energy of receiving our manifestation. And finally, the nervous system really appreciates emotional grounding. Okay, so there's a bunch of techniques that I'm going to give you that'll help with emotional grounding, and you may even have some already. The breath is the easiest and simplest one, but for some people, it doesn't always suffice depending on how big the feeling is or how big the circumstance seems, right? So we want to make sure that we have our emotional toolbox set up and ready to go just in case something comes up. We already have the tools at hand to regulate our nervous system. Without a regulated nervous system, manifestations collapse. Okay, so this is important. This is a non negotiable step. Here's the final step, y'all. Step 4, sensory awareness warm up. Okay, so I already spoke about this as a part of our conscious mind. Our 5 senses lives in our waking world where we get to intentionally focus on our desires, what it is that we want. And so we want to utilize our ears, eyes, our nose, our mouths, and then our fingertips as much as possible with regards to our manifestation. So I want you to take a moment and let's do this warm up now. Close your eyes. Think about what you wrote down as your desire to manifest today? How can you imagine a sound from your manifestation? Hear it. I know for me, when I think about my new space and just moving in, that I could hear the echoes of my voice and my woohoo celebrating my new achievement. Now imagine a scent related to your goal. I told y'all I could smell my eucalyptus from here. Maybe if you want a new car, you could smell the leather seats or that car freshener you just added to your rearview mirror. Imagine celebrating your new accomplishment with your favorite dish for taste. I could definitely taste the satisfaction of spaghetti and meatballs, my first dinner in my new home. What do you taste celebrating your new accomplishment? Touch. Imagine holding it, some part or all parts of your manifestation. Hold it. I imagine holding and hearing the jingle of the keys to my new home. What are you holding? And finally, feel it. Just take a moment to imagine the emotional frequency when you experience your manifestation in its fullest form. Happiness, ecstatic, excited, or maybe you're simply relieved. Relish in all of your sensory awareness around your manifestation. It's important. It's a big part of the process. Remember this moment. Come back every day for a few seconds, like we did today, all the way until you are living in the very experience that you imagined for the first time. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. And welcome back. I so appreciate spending that moment with you as we are manifesting together. Yeah. And so, hopefully by now you have a few things written down in your book. And we come back tomorrow for more application on how to make it manifest. Tomorrow is day 2, the bridge to our manifestation. Until then, all I need you to do is to go and relax into the feeling of your desire in its fullest form. Until then, friends, be mindful of the beliefs that come up. Be sure to write them down and then release them each time they come to visit. Give yourself grace. This is not a one and done thing. It is a consistent and a constant practice of stepping into the new version of yourself. I'm proud of you, and I'll see you tomorrow, fam.